Listen, I did film and television studies at university for 3 years. I spent hours reading countless books and articles on subjects spanning from film all the way to television. Not a single one mentioned Hugh Grant once.
I achieved the hardest qualification across any university or college ever, a 2-1 in history. Let me tell you, the only thing that I learned was that we, as a society, have a history of denying and neglecting Hugh Grant's artistic and cultural relevance, not just in this country, but in the entire world.
I met Oscar at a Hugh Grant-themed event I put on at the Students' Union.
It felt as though Diggory and I were the only ones there, and we agreed that there was a Hugh Grant-shaped hole in academia.
We decided to put it right ourselves. We want to show people that he's an icon in acting.
We want to show people he's more than just a bumbling posh guy.
I'm Diggory Waite.
And I'm Oscar Beardmore Gray. And this is...
Taking Hugh for Granted.
Hello and welcome to Taking Hugh for Granted, the podcast in which two Hugh Grant enthusiasts watch every single film starring Hugh Grant in the attempt to answer the simple question: is this film taking Hugh for granted? Is this film good on its own, or does it rely on the bumbling Brit for its acclaim? I'm Diggory Waite, and I'm joined, as always, by my colleague and fellow Hugh Grant obsessive Oscar Beardmore Gray. Oscar, how the bloody hell are you doing today, mate?
Doing all right, Diggs. I feel like I'm still recovering from last weekend.
So am I. Tell them where we were, Oscar. Tell them where we were.
We went back actually to the place where we founded this podcast, or where the idea for founding this podcast was. Diggory and I were back at our old university town of Bristol for friend's stag do, which woof, indeed. It did get a little bit out of hand at times, didn't it?
It certainly did. I mean, I was explaining it to people here and they were like, oh, what did you guys do? And I was like, well, the stag was dressed in a sexy nurse outfit the entire time. And they were like, didn't he stink? And I was like, to be honest, I didn't smell him. But I'm sure if I did, he would have stank. What else did we do?
Well, Diggs, you should tell our audience about the wizard game.
Oh, yes. Well, funnily enough, Oscar, I don't remember the wizard game all that well. So essentially, obviously, it's a stag do. There's lots of drinking going on. And do they have stag do's in America and North America and Canada and stuff?
It's the bachelor party. We should we should say that, shouldn't we? It's not stag do's and hen do's, as they call it here. But bachelor and bachelorettes. I'm
friends with the hen in question, and they had their hen and stag do, their bachelor and bachelorette party on the same weekend, and it was her birthday. And I messaged her saying "cluck cluck cluck" to the hen, happy birthday, and she loved that. I hope. Anyway, the wizard game. Bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, the wizard game took place on a Sunday, and we all had work on the Monday morning. The wizard game, I wonder if they have it in America. You drink a can of beer, and then you drink, and then that's fine, normal. And then you put that to one side. Then you drink your second can of beer, and this is where the game starts to take place. You take the two empty cans, put one on top of the other, and tape them together. You keep doing this as you drink more and more beer, until eventually you have a staff. And once the first person to get to, I think, is it 7 cans?
I think it's normally 10, but we played 7 because we'd already been drinking so much.
Yeah, exactly. If I'd known, I would have taken my cans off the boat that we were on. We were on a boat, guys, and we were waving at people and playing really loud music and drinking alcohol. It was fantastic.
Who knew that waving at people was so fun?
And that's the thing. It's exhilarating and really wholesome. Do you know what I mean? Like the sheer thrill of waving at people and then waving back at you on a boat is just unrivaled. And yet it's like, it's a wholesome activity. There's not many activities where I'm like, that's wholesome and thrilling. Anyway, so eventually let's say you get to 7-10 beers, you have a really long staff. The first person to get there gets given a wizard's hat and a wizard's beard, and they then parade around with their staff. The next person to reach 10 beers in their staff then challenges the White Wizard. And we did it, and the first person's staff to break then loses, and whoever's staff remains after that duel, they are the White Wizard until the next challenger comes along. I can't remember what happened to me, Oscar. I imagine there was what happened?
I have got a video of you picture the scene. We're in a very sort of picturesque part of Bristol, in a sort of old Victorian square. We're a bunch of yobs, 8 beers deep, and Diggory is stumbling around with his staff, and it was almost like a jousting match. Two people just ran at each other.
Is there anyone else? Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Maximus Decimus Meridius Meridius Decimus. And I will have my vengeance. Wizard, 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 wizard,
My staff and I both sort of crumpled in on ourselves like a deck chair. We just instantly just slap. We were down. And my pride was the thing that took the biggest beating at that point.
So maybe we should move on to the reason why we're actually talking about the stag weekend and what the film or the vignette that we're tackling today, which of course is One Red Nose Day and a Wedding.
Yes, we should do some translations for our friends across the pond
and all around the world.
I always do that. I always just pretend that the only people that listen to this are Americans, and that's it. Oscar, what the hell is Red Nose Day?
Red Nose Day is a annual charity event that mainly happens on TV, but it happens in schools as well. Everyone wears a red nose and gives £1 to charity, and most of the money, I think, goes to Comic Relief, which is a children's charity. And often a whole load of kind of sketches are done involving famous people, obviously Hugh being one of them. And I think it was 2019, they did a sort of 15-minute remake of 4 Weddings and a Funeral, called it One Red Nose Day and a Wedding. Or wait, so did they call it One Red? Did I get that wrong? Is it One Red Nose Day and a Wedding or funeral?
One Red Nose Day and a Wedding. Actually, if it went One Red Nose Day and a Funeral, that would have been way
dark.
funnier. Yeah, I love all that though. That would have been hilarious. But should we have a synopsis and then get chatting about it?
Let's get cracking. Yeah.
One Red Nose and a Wedding, directed by Mike Newell, written by Richard Curtis, and released as a Comic Relief Red Nose Day special in 2019. 25 years after the events of 4 Weddings and a Funeral, released in 1994, Charles, played by Hugh Grant, Carrie, played by Andie MacDowell, and friends are back in church. But whose wedding is it this time, and will there be any more familiar faces?
Right then, Oscar, One Red Nose Day and a Wedding. Initial thoughts?
It was a good laugh. I don't think it was ever going to be as good as the main thing, but it was never trying to be the main thing, wasn't it? I mean, a little recap on the story. What happens is obviously at the end of 4 Weddings and a Funeral, Andie MacDowell and Hugh have that long exchange kiss in the rain.
The truth of it is, I loved you from the first second I met you. You're not suddenly going to go away again, are you?
No. I might drown, but otherwise, no.
We sort of come back to 2019 and they're still happily together. But Hugh's daughter is now getting married to Kristen Scott-Thomas's character's daughter.
Yeah.
And it's quite, it's Rowan Atkinson gets very, very confused about the fact that there is a same-sex relationship going on. And Lily James is actually playing Hugh Grant's daughter, which I thought was quite fun.
Yes, amazing. I have to say, I can't go on any longer without mentioning this. Obviously, I was doing some background research on this bad boy, and we search everywhere when we're doing this. We look on IMDb, we look on Wikipedia, all the greatest place for research. And I went on YouTube, and the only thing I could find, there's someone called, I think it's called Bicycle Cycle Tour or something, and it's this woman reacting to it, and I was like, oh, this is brilliant, I'm gonna watch a reaction video. And it's because she's a lesbian herself, and she was like, I can't believe Alicia Vikander and Lily James are going to be in this film together, and they're a gay couple. And it's just, and this girl just sat there on her bed watching this, and just like she's screaming, and she can't believe what she's seeing. And it's the most wholesome viewing I've ever seen in my entire life. It's so amazing. So I would recommend everyone checks that out. It's such a good video. It was so sweet, and it made me enjoy this a lot more than I would have done, because at the end of the day, this is just like, yeah, a little 15 minutes to be like, to have lots of in jokes and lots of like reminders and stuff.
Head on in.
Yes, I better. Good luck.
Indeed. Very scary.
And good luck to you too, darling Miranda.
Thanks, Fifi.
No, please don't call me that. Since we've been spending so much more time together, Fiona is much better.
Well, it's not too late to run, you know. It is a family tradition. I could just order you an Uber right now.
Shush. I'm a much better human than you.
Gosh, Bernard, you have been busy. How many's that? 6? I know. Lydia, darling, how are you?
Awful most of the time. But romantically, couldn't be happier.
Oh, that is disgusting. Here we go.
Interestingly enough, you mentioned Alicia Vikander, which is a nice little, for I'm sure a lot of you out there would have got that little link to the universe. Alicia Vikander starred alongside Hugh Grant in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. She was the sort of very fashionable girlfriend of Armie Hammer. I believe that's his name, isn't it? Yeah, yes. that guy.
Disgraced Armie Hammer.
Exactly, disgraced Armie Hammer. But yeah, quite interesting to see her pop up in this little vignette.
Yeah, and also it's funny as well. Again, not gonna keep going back to this reaction video. She kept being like, "Oh, all these British actors, like I don't know who any of them are, but I think it's a big deal in Britain." And it's funny, just like because Alicia Vikander is very much. It almost just feels like she is just thrown in there, very much similar to how Andie MacDowell was kind of just chucked in the original.
It is a bit random.
It's a bit random, but I mean. It's funny, like I wonder with the whole same-sex thing, because obviously like Rowan Atkinson makes such a big deal out of it and it's kind of funny, but also I do wonder if particularly the Gen Z amongst us might watch this and recoil a bit, because you know the whole, you know,
it wasn't, if I'm being completely honest, I wasn't laughing that much.
No.
Especially as Rowan Atkinson, he is so funny in the original. Let's be honest. He is possibly the best bit about the film. That scene, obviously, when they're doing the vows and stuff, is brilliant. The Holy Spigot and all the rest of it. He kind of just redoes the jokes and sort of takes the piss out of gay people a little bit. I don't want to be a woke motherfucker, but it is a little bit like that, isn't it?
It is. And do you know what? That's what I was thinking. I was sat there going, am I a woke motherfucker? Am I, you know, nothing wrong with being a woke motherfucker, but I don't feel like I want to be a woke motherfucker today. I just want to sit here and enjoy this, and I can't. I just can't. It did feel a little bit like, they did it, and yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I mean, that's just. I think some people, particularly the youngsters out there, will watch this and feel like it's a bit uncomfortable. However, I think older people, I know this again is going to sound very generalizing, but they might be like, oh yes, it is weird. You know, how things have changed.
What I would say is that I actually much enjoyed the second half a lot more than the first half. So in this 15-minute little thing, the first half is in the church and they have the sort of vows and the wedding scene, and then the second half is the party. And that's where Hugh really shines in this. I mean, going back to Hugh, obviously, Hugh chucks in quite a few in-jokes about supporting Fulham Football Club. He says that the majority of his money would be going to Fulham when he dies. And then there was a really good bit. The best bit of the whole thing, when I was laughing the most, was when he's doing sign language. And this guy says in sign language, say, I'm just a weak and shallow man past his prime. And Hugh's like, oh, okay. That made me laugh. That was a good chuckle.
That was a great chuckle. But do you know what? I want to get your thoughts on this. It really underlines something for me. There was something off about Hugh in this 15 minutes. I don't know if you felt this as well. He didn't feel like Charles to me at all. It's weird. Obviously, it's exactly the same actor. It's exactly the same setting. But there was nothing about his performance, or maybe I don't know what it was. Nothing about him made me think, oh, this is Charles from the first film. It just felt like Hugh Grant to me. And so when he said, I'm going to leave all my money to Fulham Football Club, i.e. the team that Hugh Grant supports, and when his brother or whatever is doing the sign language and being like, you're shallow, you're old, and you're past your prime, and you're weak, I was like, again, this feels like a dig at Hugh Grant, which probably it was, but none of it really felt like Charles. Maybe I'm looking too much into it, but I don't know if you felt like that as well.
No, that is a brilliant, that's why I love you, Diggs, because that is the analysis. That is the analysis completely on point. I mean, you were completely true. I mean, in some ways, maybe it's hard to replicate because he's not a sort of young guy with locks of hair, and you know, he's moved on. He's moved on from that role. Maybe he doesn't look back on it with that much fondness. I mean, the acting I did see in this was more akin to his acting of the Renaissance. You know, things like Phoenix Buchanan.
Yes. Big vibes of that.
Big vibes of that. And you're completely right that he is just a different actor to what he was in 1994, unsurprisingly. And Andie MacDowell had more of Carrie's character in her performance here than Hugh did of Charles's, I believe.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think for other characters, it may have been harder, like Fiona, played by Kristen Scott-Thomas. Again, it was, you know, you had to search for it there because she's got this wicked new haircut. She's got this like sort of grey, she looks like a grey pencil. But it's great and she looks really cool. But I always find it weird as well with that because like, wasn't the whole point that she fancied Hugh, but that then they never really got together and she was upset about it the whole time? What happened? That's what happened in the original, right?
In the original, of course, yes.
Yeah, but it's just, and so that when she gave him that little kiss on the cheek at the end in this 15-minute one, I was like, oh, hello, that's back again, is it? Oh.
Well, they had to plant that seed, didn't they?
It's true, but I always find that a little bit funny, that whole thing. But anyway, yes, I think it was. So you might have like not seen it in the way that she looked particularly, but again, even the way it did come through. So yeah, I'm glad that you felt the same way, because I was wondering, I was like, shit, is there something wrong with me? Why does Charles not feel like Charles here? It just feels like Hugh.
Well, you're listening to Hugh Grant taking Hugh for granted on the radio. Hugh Grant taking Hugh for granted. Oh, the podcast show.
The reason, Diggs, we chose, I guess we didn't maybe say this right at the beginning, but the reason why we chose to review this week is obviously we had the stag do, and the wedding for our friends is coming up in a couple of weeks' time. So it just felt like, I know it is wedding season, but I think it really is wedding season this year because the pandemic has meant that basically all the weddings that were meant to happen in, I don't know, May are now in September. And I'm just wondering, are you going to be rocking a Charles haircut at this wedding?
Oh, no. Do you know what I've done? I've got this terrible, terrible haircut. I've got like a 0.5 millimeter short back and sides, which was a
wig.
Do you know what? A wig would do me. My dad saw me the other day, and I was like, oh, what do you think of a haircut? And he's like, it's not great, isn't it? I was like, I know, I'm really upset about it. And he was like, listen, and I was like, well, I'll go to work and I'll wear a hat. And he was like, you need a balaclava, mate, not a hat. So that didn't fill me with confidence. It's not good. I wish I could go like that. I think what he's wearing quite a fun little outfit though to his wedding, isn't he? The first one. He's not just wearing his standard, he's like wearing a nice little sort of brown tweedish sort of suit. That's what I want to be rocking.
Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
His real wedding or his wedding in 4 weddings?
His wedding in 4 weddings.
I just picture him in the sort of tailcoat with the gold kind of thing, and you know he's got Andie MacDowell on his side. It's curtains. That's the picture I got in my head.
Yeah, shit. Maybe I've got to get some tails. You'll know somewhere I can get some tails.
I might be able to sort you out, mate. I might just do it for the look, though.
Oh my, yeah, because it's a proven look. It works.
Well, look, I when I say I'm doing it for the look, I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it to look like Hugh Grant.
Yeah, let's be real. And that's what I think I've said that to myself in the mirror a lot. Or I've been walking out of a shop, having bought some clothes, being like, I'm doing this to look like Hugh Grant. I'm buying this pink salmon colored shirt and I'm going to unbutton 2 buttons at the top. I'm going to do it to look like Hugh Grant. I'm very excited about the wedding. Is there anything else about Hugh, or maybe should we say Charles, that we can take with us to that wedding and emulate when we're there? Well, we can be late for a start.
We could be late.
Yeah.
I'm planning not on that, but we could do that. I guess we could just be incredibly bumbling and awkward on purpose as part of an act. Like, you know, that bit when he offends that person because he's like something talking about his affair, and then people will know what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I know the bit. In 2019, this was only a couple of years ago.
I know.
It does in my head. It just feels so far in the past, but it was only 2 years ago, which is really, really weird.
It is a bit weird because that makes. I mean, because you know, you got a person like Lily James who I think she did things like Mamma Mia after that, or before that, and then you got someone like that, and then of course I guess like Alicia Vikander. Maybe Hugh rang her up and said, "You'd be perfect for this," because they would have done A Man from U.N.C.L.E. before that.
Yeah,
very interesting.
Who knows?
Anyway, that kind of sort of feels like the right time to wrap this baby up.
I think so. I mean, yeah. Oh shit, we need to take Hugh for granted.
Yeah,
this feels like such a huge news.
Taking Hugh for granted. Taking Hugh for granted. Taking Hugh for granted. What did you think, lads? Were they taking Hugh for granted?
Oscar Beardmore Grey. One red-nosed day and a wedding. Is it taking Hugh for granted?
It is taking Hugh for granted.
I think. My word. Yeah.
I think we skirted around it, but it wasn't that funny.
No.
It didn't quite hit the right comedic elements for me.
Agreed.
And Hugh didn't play Charles. So for that reason, I'm out.
Yeah, I completely agree. To be fair, the good things about it were his, like you said before, his speech that he gave actually was like semi-heartwarming. The bit when his brother, whoever, was giving him the sign language, that was kind of sweet. I enjoyed that. Other than that, the fan service didn't really hit the mark. As you say, the jokes didn't really hit the mark. It felt a bit weird and haphazard. And Hugh Grant wasn't Charles. I didn't really like it. Simple as that. It's been taking you for granted. So there you go. He's got a few more of these to go. He's done loads of these fucking red nose things. We've got a few more in the bank to try out, and hopefully they're better than this bag of poo.
I was about to say we'll be back for Christmas with what was the Love Actually one called?
Christmas Actually, maybe.
Christmas Actually. We'll be back for that. So all you fans out there, you got that to look forward to. I mean, what I would say is that this thing is only 15 minutes, so it's worth watching on your lunch break. You know, it's one of those things. It's one of those things where it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You're at work. You're doing nothing. You're watching YouTube. Just watch it.
Just stick it on, and enjoy, and just watch you give a dreadful speech. Fantastic. Oscar, I'm very much looking forward to seeing you in a week or two at this wedding of our own. Hopefully there's no funerals after that as a result.
Hopefully, yes.
Fingers crossed. But I will see you then. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us as always. Do follow us on the socials at Taking You for Granted. Just look us up. You'll find us. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Taking Hugh for Granted is produced, edited and presented by Diggory Waite and Oscar Beardmore Grey. The producers of Taking Hugh for Granted would like to state that this podcast is in no way associated with the actor Hugh John Mungo Grant, nor does it endorse his views or represent him in any way. Instead, by creating this podcast, Oscar and Diggory hope to celebrate Hugh's illustrious career, reliving his old classics and shedding light on some of his hidden gems. Hugh, if you're listening, we hope you approve.